Hello, here is Edith again from Step Into Your Brilliance. Before I start this video, I want to let you know how this came about. At the week-long retreat, someone asked Dr. Joe, how do I best work with my children? In this video, you can listen to the answer he gave her.
Great question. One of the books that I wanted to write was the 10 Laws of Quantum Parenting. Now, I raised my kids in this philosophy, in this way of life, in this lifestyle. And my kids are really unique people because I did not start off when they were 4 years old saying, "You create your reality, now stop that." That's not fair to a child. They don't even understand what that means. But there are certain things that you can do for your children that are very beneficial. For example, never try to reason with your children when they're emotional, because no new information can enter their nervous system that isn't equal to the emotion they're experiencing. Do you want to be reasoned with when you're emotional? Do you want to be left alone? You want a few minutes, yes? Now, if there's an injury, if there's danger, of course you have to step in. If there's chemical needs, of course you have to, take care of that. But for the most part, with my children, I allowed them to have their moment. But whenever they had their moment, I would stop whatever I was doing and I would turn and look at them. And I would watch them. I wanted them to know that I was observing them. Never said anything to them unless they asked. And when the emotions wore off, I would say to them, at the end of the day, I'd get in bed with them and I'd say, "It's a tough day for me today." And I would share with them what I was working on as if they were my best friend or an adult. I didn't hold back at all with them. And I would do that to create the space of safety where they could start expressing what they knew that I observed about them in the most objective way, self-reflective way. And then they would say, "Oh yeah, I lost my temper with Paris, her friend." And I said, "I know, I saw you." This is right before they go to bed. What's their brain waves at this point? Very suggestible. They're already dipping into theta, they're in alpha. They're in the love stories because it helps them to imagine. And then I would say to them the same thing every time. I really don't care what happened. What I care about is if you had another opportunity in the same situation, how you would do it differently. I just want to know how we could evolve your experience. And then, of course, they would give me answers that were always limited. Especially my boys, but. And I'd say, "Yeah, well, if you do that, more than likely this is going to happen. Did you think of that?" No. And then we go back and forth until we had a very clear understanding of what would be the higher road to take the next time. And then I would say to them, "No, just so I'm sure that I understand this, can you repeat it back to me? Like, if that happened again, what would you do?" And then they would go and say it, and then it would fall off a little bit, and I'd bring them back, and I'd review it with them until the point where they could explain it exactly what they would do. Are you with me? What did they just do? They mentally rehearsed it. Yes or no? And they're installing the circuitry. They're priming their brain for the experience. I'm giving them tools neurologically. Are you with me still? And I say to them, then if you did that, then that more than likely would create this experience, and how would you feel? And I would let them just contact that feeling just for a minute. And all I wanted to do was combine an intention and an emotion, a new emotion. You with me? Then I'd get them in bed, tuck them in, and I would tell them a story of these kids that lived in a mystical land with castles and dragons and princesses. And then I would tell them the story of these kids, and then I would bring in their story into the allegory. Because there's a story, allegory is a great way to associate with characters. And then I would tell them the lessons that they learned while I repeated it back to them in a very creative story. And so many times they'd look at me just before they'd fall asleep and they'd say, "Was that me?" I'd say, "I don't know, was it?" The next day I'd get them up. Of course, I'm up at, before the sun. Come on, get up. We got things to do. Come on. I connect with them. I'd always connect with them and let them know that they're important and that they matter and that I love them. And I would tell them how the day was going to go, the main things, and I'm going to remind you just so you have some structure. And then there's going to be time to play, but we have to get these things done. I just help them understand that there was some ritual involved in this, some boundaries, some intention. And then when we were at breakfast, I'd say, "What was it that you would do if you had that same situation with Paris again? Tell me." And then I would have them rehearse it again. And I would do it to the point that they would say, well, they wouldn't say that. They'd say, "God, I just want this thing to happen so you can just leave me alone. I just can't wait for it to happen so I can get on with my life." Now I knew they were ready. And I would watch them so many times, especially my oldest son. My oldest son can model anything. You can show him how to do something once or twice and he'll do it. He is just that way. He's got his mirror neurons in place because I would always say to him, "Watch me. Watch me do this. I want you to watch me do this." So then you have children. They have mirror neurons. When a lioness takes a cub out to hunt, she doesn't say, "Okay, you two go this way, you go this way, I'm going to ambush him from the back." She says, "Watch me." And they are so intent and so frozen on what she's doing. They're observing her so much that they're actually activating the same circuits in their brain as her circuits when she's hunting. She's selecting and instructing those circuits by modeling the behavior so they could imitate the behavior. Are you with me? So think about the terrible twos. You've got a kid, he's 1 year old, she's all cute, or he's all cute, and all of a sudden they get wheels at 1. And because they're so neuroplastic, they want to know how everything works. So they open up the cabinet under the sink, they pick it up, and they turn it upside down, they pour everything out. And what do you say? "No!" Then, something else, "No!" They do this for a whole year, then they turn 2, and you say to them, "Put on your shoes," and they say, "No!" It's a terrible too, so I wonder where they got that from. They're modeling behavior, yes? But they're not going to pay attention as much to what you say in the beginning as to how you say it and how you act. Because they're going to model that behavior, and now your behavior is actually activating the genes that they inherited from you in the environment, and they'll behave just like you. It's that easy. Are you with me still? So then with children, we set up conditions when they were kids. I had a beautiful greenhouse as an example, and I would take a seed and put it in a little planter of corn, and then another seed and another planter and another one. And I would say to my kids, "All right, all of that, whatever you got going on, that negative energy, I just want you to just put it into that seed. And this one, we are going to hope, we're going to nurture it for the greatest good. We're going to love it. We're going to love some life into it. Third one, I don't want you paying attention to it. I don't want you thinking about it. I want you looking at it. Don't you look at that one." And every day we did this. And I can't tell you how many times that one that got the anger and the frustration and then all that stuff got maggots and died. Didn't even germinate. The one that usually takes 2 weeks to germinate, the corn seed, is out of the gate in like 4 days. It's growing. And the other one's somewhere in between. Happened over and over again. Now, I believe that if you give children the facts, they interpret the laws. And I remember my oldest son poking at my daughter. She kind of looked over at him. And she said, "Jace," I knew she was thinking about those corn seeds. She said, "If I react to you, that isn't going to be loving to me." She figured it out that if she got angry, it was going to do that to her body, to her cells. And to this day, she's an adult, and every decision she makes, she asks herself the question, will this be loving to me? This is just part of her circuitry. And then as they got older, they had to create something on their own once they understood the principles, understood the formula, and I could not intervene in any way. And I mean, my kids have, not that I didn't want to give it to them, I just wanted to see how the universe would work. You know, neighbors coming over with a motorcycle, just to hand it off to them. A car given to them. You know, trips to different places. Unlimited shopping sprees. I don't know. Whatever. Being in a music video. Whatever they wanted. I just allowed them and encouraged them to do it, but I would always do it with them. I didn't say, do your meditation. I'd say, let's do it. I got one too. Let's do it together. And then when they were little, you know, mothers, you know, I mean, how many times does a mother just never have time for herself? I raised my kids for a good portion of their lives. And when I walked out in the morning, I just put down a pillow, wrapped myself in a blanket, put my blindfolds on, and they would just be playing around me. They just thought everybody did this. And they just left me alone, and I left them alone as long as nobody was hurt and nothing was burning down or there was any danger. You know, they knew that it would be a certain amount of time, and then I'd come out and I'd be super happy. And so that was just part of their environment. It was just something that they accepted. And my children, you know, to this day, you know, they love their time for themselves. They love doing that. They know how to respect their time for themselves. And with technology, it was really simple. If I call you once and you can't stop on that video game, I'm pulling the plug. That's it. I'm just going to pull the plug, because if you can't stop, you're addicted to it. They did experiments with kids. They said, we'll give you $1 every time we ring the bell while you're playing the video game. We'll give you $1 when you stop. Guess how many kids were able to do it? 0. And you want to take children to go from a narrow focus to a broad focus. Get them out in nature. Get them out and surf. My kids surf, and they kiteboard, and they rock climb, and they cycle, and do all that stuff, and they can set their phone down for a half a day. They're not going to come back and feel like they need it. I want them to be able to use technology, but not use it for the rush of emotions or chemicals. My youngest son, I got to work a little harder for, because he doesn't know a world without technology. He didn't grow up without it. So I got to make my way with him in a different way. But in the absence of that stimulation, now you can't find pleasure from anything. You tell the child, take your dog for a walk. Boring. Go see your grandmother. I don't think so. Let's go watch the sunset. Boring. Why? Let's learn something new. What? Their pleasure centers are so hijacked, so kidnapped to a higher level, they can't find pleasure in anything. They're dependent on something to make them feel. Are you with me still? They get older in their life, and they get in trouble. They face a difficult situation. They'll be looking for something out there, some drug, something to stimulate them, to take away that feeling. And that becomes a challenge. So with your children, if they're doing technology, have them do it after they finish all their homework, after they finish all their chores, after they complete everything. They feel so satisfied, you'll find them say, I don't really want to play. I'm cool. But now it's a way for kids to connect with one another because of what? Because of COVID. You can, play Xbox or whatever and play your games and be able to interact socially. So as long as they don't overdo it where they come out and they are, when that happens, when you see that kind of glazed over look, they overdosed. And they're not even going to hear you unless you yell at them and raise your voice to get their attention. And now you go to school, and learning should be a reward in and of itself. Now they have to act out. They have to get in trouble. They have to do something to get the rush of adrenaline to pay attention. It becomes a danger. So with children, you want to be the example and not be the preacher. They are little souls in a body, and they're figuring it out, and they chose you. Their souls, not their personality, their souls chose you for the environment in which they are going to be raised and for the genes that they get to express on their own journey. And your best thing to do with them is to include them in, and not to lecture them about creating their reality. Be honest with them about how you're learning how to do it. lead, let them follow, then stop and let them lead and see if they're heading in the right direction and counsel them in the right way.
How did you like this video? I don't know if you have children or not. I don't know what life situation you are in right now. Maybe you have a job where you deal with children. As always, when I found this talk, I was very happy about it. I know the teaching of Dr. Joe quite well. I have also been in these retreats sometimes, but what I like most about it is to experience how he brings his philosophy to life by example in his dealings with his children. So I'm very happy if you leave me a comment so we could share our experience, or maybe if you subscribe my channel or if you give me a like, whatever. Have a nice day. Bye.